Doran Whittier, are you guys ready?
Yep,
Yeah, you're all
we're
here?
ready.
Okay. I printed the agenda. Where did it go? Okay. Am I ready to go?
Go ahead.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 27th meeting of the Westwood School Building Committee Site and Outdoor Design Subcommittee. I'm going to start with the roll call attendance. Ken Aries.
Here.
John Cummings.
Here.
Charlie Donahue.
Here.
Jen Flanders. Here. Tony Mullen.
Here.
And Mike Walsh cannot attend today, and I am here. Okay, I'd like to recognize the live stream available online at www.westwood.k12.ma.us/live to provide real-time public access to the activities of the school building committee in accordance with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. With that, I just wanted to make a quick statement. I should say Doran Whittier and Compass have gotten a preliminary estimate back for the cost estimate back at the 50% DD phase. We are, given all of the increases in construction costs, we are coming in high, higher than we were 6 months ago. So we are going to go through a process, another round of value engineering. I think this group has a value engineering session set up for either August 3rd or August 4th. I can't remember which one. But so this discussion, we should keep that in mind in the back of our minds. We're not really looking at VE, value engineering items today. We're looking at the overall site and making sure we're all on the same page of what we want for the outdoor. But we do need to be thinking sort of in the back of our minds, framing this, that we are going to have to do more VE work on site and outdoor design. And, you know, I don't think we can get into it today too much. We're going to have recommendations from Doran Whittier next time, but just everyone keeping in mind that we are over. So that's coming. All right. With that, we're going to move into the discussion items, and I'm turning it over to Rob, who is back from vacation. Happily, I'm sure, right, Rob?
Yeah, I'm well rested and back in the seat. So.
Excellent. Well, we missed you, and we are glad to have you back.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, great to have everybody here today. With me, or joining me today, we have Steve Haskell, our job captain. And then we have our landscape architecture team of Deb Myers, Jeff Thoma, and Chris from DMLA. So we'll all be kind of, joining in here together and invite them to chime in as we go through this. So I'm just going to share my screen. Let's see. So today we're going to just kind of go over, provide an overview of the site. These are different areas that we're planning to just talk through and make sure, really one of the biggest things is just making sure everyone's all on the same page as to what's included in the project and what may not be included in the project, and go over questions. We've got a number of items that I think was sent out in a document that Maya sent out, and we'll be kind of using that as a guide. So playfields, fencing, playground, signage, parking, snow plowing, sidewalks, entry plaza, trees, shrubs, and plantings, and irrigation. So because of the size of the site, our drawings are broken up into different quadrants. And so this is kind of like the overview here. I've got another plan I can share and then zoom into. These slides were just kind of snapshots of the different building areas. So one area that we thought we would focus on or start off with is the play fields. And I'm actually going to switch to this other document that where I can kind of zoom in and out of easily. let me just bring that over. So, so this is the playground area, and so, or the playfield, I should say. So wanted to just kind of go over the baseball area, or the Little League baseball area. We've got a fencing located directly around, with a yellow fence topper around the Little League baseball field. It's about 200 feet from here to the fence line. We've got quite a bit of distance between the baseline and the sidewalk over here. We look at the scale. You can see from this is approximately 40 feet. So, this is roughly around maybe 80 feet, 70 to 80 feet between the baseline and the sidewalk. We've got located here, these benches, and we've also got a vinyl coated chain link fence that's located here that extends. So this is approximately 4 feet in height. It extends across.
Rob, the picture keeps jumping around. Is it possible? It's a little hard to follow because, at least for me, I just feel like the picture's going in and out, like bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. Can we just keep it sort of one
Sure.
size? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Getting a little dizzy.
So here we've got a sidewalk, that extends from the street over on a diagonal, so that it facilitates walkers coming across and over. We've got a stone dust pad here with bike racks indicated. So if kids are parking their bikes here for play fields after school, they can get back on their bikes and head back home, or if they're coming in, they can certainly park there. We also have bike racks located up closer to the building. Right now we have a crosswalk that extends across the street and connects to the opposite side of the street over here. We're looking at the possibility of maybe eliminating this crosswalk here, thinking that it might be redundant and it may not connect to another sidewalk across the street. So that's something that we're looking into, and just reducing the number of crosswalk areas.
Hey, Rob, right now there's only one crosswalk. It's that upper one, correct?
Today existing?
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah, I was looking at this plan and was very confused by the lower sidewalk, because that's a sidewalk to nowhere. Like there's no sidewalk on the other side.
Yeah.
I was confused by that one.
Yeah, I think initially we were thinking, okay, this is now our kind of primary walkway for students, and that maybe it would make sense to have a connection, right here where it terminates, but without a sidewalk on the opposite side. We really are feeling that doesn't really make sense to do that. And we'll be reaching out also to the planning department and just kind of coordinate with them in terms of any future sidewalks that are being planned in the area, and just make sure that our crosswalk areas are tied in with any future plans that they have. Let's see. Just want to make sure I covered everything. Okay, yeah. So we don't have any scoreboards planned. Wondering if we should provide an alternate to provide a conduit for a future scoreboard, or if people are confident that, that's not going to be needed.
Quite honestly, the new scoreboards that they have the LED lighting and with a solar panel on it. You don't even have to run out any electricity if you were to put one in. But I have a
Okay.
question about the diamond itself. How come you moved it? It's like as far as close to the fence to the left. How come it's not, more to the street, it's giving you more room for later parking or whatever else behind the field?
I think
Yeah,
there's
for
a
Deb.
couple things, or Jeff, if you want to answer.
Sure. Well, the first is we're trying to save that existing tree that you see in the top right corner of the outfield. So the closer we get to that existing tree, the more the chances that we're going to disturb the roots and hurt the tree. And maybe we thought that wasn't such a good thing. So the main reason is to save that tree there.
Aside
Is
from the
that-
kids taking a lot of their pictures like 20 years ago in front of this tree, is there anything in particular about that one tree?
It's a fairly large tree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But there's nothing in particular other than it's a large deciduous tree that we thought we might like to keep. Other than that,
Okay. No, I just, so they used to 20 years or 15 years ago, take all the kids' pictures in front of that tree. So I was just wondering if any of the, I don't know, neighbors or anybody from the Hamlin community had asked to keep the tree. The answer is
not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay.
For clarification, that tree is the one that if you're facing the front door to the left of the front door. Rob, can you show where the front door currently is? Right there.
Yeah, I know the tree.
Oh,
So
yeah, we know the tree.
okay, so so the idea is that if you're a spectator at the game, you would set up your chair along the first baseline. Is that right? Like in that area near the tree?
Yes, you could watch from there, or you could watch from the bleachers that are right where Rob had his cursor there, along the first base line as well. They're right behind first base.
Okay.
But all along that outfield into right field as well, you could be a spectator. Underneath the tree, on the lawn area over there.
And are we worried at all, given how close it is to the driveway, about balls being hit into the driveway?
My understanding is that the age group for this little league, that they rarely hit the ball over the outfield fence. It's a 200-foot outfield.
This is the T-ball league and the next semi-pitch. If they hit the ball, it's awesome.
But it's a little league size field, right? So conceivably we could have little league games on there. So wouldn't that be older kids?
Well, it's up to the town to determine, I guess, who uses the field and when they use it.
Right. I mean, I'm just thinking, and this is probably a question more for the Westwood Little League. If we have if we're not going to use the Little League baseball field for Little League for that age group, why wouldn't we make the field smaller? Do you see what I'm saying, John? I guess it's John Cummings.
Yeah, kids are going to have wiffle ball games out there and everything else. So, I think it's an age appropriate for grade school. I wouldn't want the middle schoolers to play there, but, second, third, fourth, and maybe even fifth, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I'll just weigh in briefly and say that this is the same size field that is existing there right now.
Is it?
And
I thought what exists now is not a Little League size field.
Yeah, it is.
It even if you zoom out, I think you can even see the one of the other site plans. But measuring off of the site survey and existing aerial photos, it is. Oh, the soccer field covers it up. Let's see.
I thought that what exists now is smaller than a Little League field, and that this project we would be installing an actual Little League size field, and because of that we would have the capability for Little League teams to play on this field, which would be older than T-ball and in the younger grades. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned about that it's so close to the driveway, because those kids could conceivably hit the ball.
Yeah, even up through 6th grade, you would play on this size field. And you, at that age, you might occasionally get a home run over the fence, I would say, but not every game, certainly.
Okay.
And
There's some concern about the, like, I mean, if you did move it, aside from protecting the tree, that's Gay Street there. Would you not be worried about balls getting foul and chasing across the street and all that? Like, I mean, I guess, don't you want that buffer?
We definitely need a buffer.
We can always add a higher fence. They had to at the softball field behind the fire station because it was pinging the roof of the fire station. So they actually built an auxiliary secondary.
Well, yeah.
What
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
I think we need Westwood Little League to weigh in here. I hate to say that, but
If I might add one point of clarification, even if you moved the whole field right up against the sidewalk on Gay Street, we wouldn't be able to increase the size of the right field.
no,
Right?
I don't
Left
want to
field.
increase the size of the field.
Okay.
I'm not interested in doing that. I'm just trying to figure out the right placement for it and who's going to be using this field.
Well, I thought the question was, could we get more space if we slid the field closer to the street? Well, why isn't the field closer to the street? Was that not what I heard originally?
That was my original question, but it wasn't for the size of the field. It was for perhaps additional parking out in left field. So you
Okay.
get 10 spots. If it was a little bit, you could actually add in another 4 or 5 down the road if we needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just spitballing, but we get. I mean, it's certainly, it's easy enough to put up a taller fence just during baseball season,
Yeah,
and a
that's
little league will be able to do that, no problem.
the right choice is to weigh in, check in with the Little League folks, because if we did have more room in the outfield, the occasional ball that's going to get hit over the fence, even if we had 5-10 more feet, it's still going to go. So the kids either have to go retrieve the balls or we put up more netting.
Yeah, and I think
Also comments.
So to speed up the process here is that I think maybe what Rob, we should do is schedule a meeting with the Little League and then decide the final position within the layout right now. Does that make sense? Because we do have other items to discuss.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
fine, and I think John's suggestion makes sense too. That increase in the height of the fence would do a lot to address the potential for balls to kind of go over it, and that way.
Okay.
Something to
Right.
aspire to for the youngsters.
I think, I think we should schedule a meeting that has Little League and soccer
Okay.
together.
Might as well throw lacrosse in there
Yeah, and Lax, yeah.
because they still want to donate the lacrosse wall.
And that'll be a post-project donation.
Right, that'll be at the end, but I just want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Okay. All right, I think that's actually on the list. So, okay, why don't we keep moving on?
And then just while we have this view here, just wanted to talk briefly about sidewalks. So one of the questions that came up from the Commission on Disability was, paths of travel from walkers to the building, and then for people, coming to visit the games and access to the fields. And so what we've done here is, included the sidewalk here, kind of across, connects here, and then connects over to the center area here and leads up to the building. This connects with the center sidewalk that comes up, and then this parking area is connected with this sidewalk leading down to this. So one of the things that we are thinking about is, is this sidewalk excessive? Does it make sense for us to potentially eliminate, this stretch of sidewalk? Is that really needed? If we've got accessible parking designated here, we come down here and access both fields. Does it make sense to do that and have these people that are parked here, that can walk down the grass onto the field? And then, does it make sense for us to have all this sidewalk connecting over, or what we had previously was the sidewalk coming down here and then making the connection up this way, which would eliminate this section and a portion of this. I just wanted to.
That's a terrible sidewalk. Okay,
Why, Ken?
Well, you're going to have kids crossing in two different spots and cars coming in and out. I don't, and it's going to be awful to even shovel, to even clean snow. It's not really a direct path.
So what would you want to see, Ken?
I don't know. I mean, for kids to be coming down the sidewalk and have to go up and walk around the parking, then cross again, I
think what that Ken, what you're saying is that it's not direct, and then there are too many 90-degree turns, and then so people are not going to stay on the sidewalk, and then they're going to walk on either the pavement or the roadway somehow.
A lot of turns, and they may not take them. They may just go straight and walk behind cars or walk in the street.
Time in a second, because I think I agree with you that there's a lot of parking. So I think there's two uses for the sidewalk. What I see, or what I hope, is that the kids that are on foot or on their bikes continue along the sidewalk that's along the roadway and into the center area of the fields. I think that central spine of the walkway that goes between the two fields is what I see is how kids approach, or even parents, on foot. And I think what all these other sidewalks that have been added, it's about getting the people from the parking spaces down to the fields.
So Deb, if that's the case, then I would advocate that you keep the sidewalk along the beginning of the Gay Street, near the Gay Street, but take the next bank of the parking, move that somewhere else, so that the only connect that to the main road, sidewalk, rather than connecting everything and then just look like a very, very long zigzag.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Sorry, Maya, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't think that practically and realistically people coming from the north or coming from the south are going to walk all the way along Gay Street and take that central path. I think human nature is you're going to take the shortest path possible. And if there isn't one, you're going to create one. I think we see that a lot of places, right? You see just paths worn where there is no sidewalk. So I think if you're coming from the south, you're going to take that left, that first left, and walk up along the driveway into the building. You're not going to go past the soccer field. And I think if you're coming from the north, again, you're not going to walk past the baseball field to get to that center path. I think you're just going to start walking up the driveway. And if there's no sidewalk, the kids are just going to walk up the driveway. I just think we have to get them somehow from those places to the doors without saying, keep walking down Gay.
What I would like to propose, I'm so glad we're able to talk to you all about these things, I would love to get rid of those 9 spaces near the outfield, and just have, like what you're suggesting, from the north, have a sidewalk that just brings kids along the drive lane I mean, I think we had one there, but we removed it, all the way basically to the front entrance. Cause I think you're right. I think people are gonna, if they're coming from the north, they're gonna walk along that driveway in. And then the people from the neighborhood might use the central spine, but then there's a lot of walkway still about getting people from the handicap.
I'm with you. Can
field.
I say, the more parking spaces, the better you have for any kind of little league. If you've been a coach that has to drop off all the stuff, leave the spots. I walked all 3 kids to that school and we went right down to where that center thing is. That's the entrance. And that's the exit. That's where everybody walked to. So, which is the home base right there. At home base is the beginning of the school. I
Yeah.
never once did I cut up through the roundabout where the buses were, the cars were, because you want to teach your kids how to walk down the sidewalk, look before you cross the street, get to where the school is, and there you are. But to go to any of the baseball games or soccer games we had there, parking was always an issue. And if you're the coach bringing in all the 3-4 kids, so all the bags and stuff, you didn't have a spot. You kind of like had to drop off the kids and the stuff, find a different spot. It was you can't have enough parking spots. It's like closets in a house, as far as I'm concerned. But all that other sidewalk, the bus inlet from the north, I agree that you don't need to have any of that sidewalk.
My
If
only
people are going to
concern
walk down
with-
the road, they're going to walk down the road, and they're not going to walk on the sidewalk anyway.
Right.
They're
My
not going
only
to go around the parking spot.
My only concern with getting rid of those 9 parking spaces is we have been telling the community that we're going to have parking that's going to be close to this new trailhead for the and that's that parking, right?
Mayor, that there's also another thing that we should point out, that right now that there is a leg of the sidewalk that goes north, and that's to the Girl Scout or the Scout House that's located there. And so in the process of rearranging the parking, right now, that if we take away the parking spaces where the cursor is on, is that okay with the Scout House? Because right now there are access.
No, we can't lose access to this to the Scout House. So that's a good point, Chin. I don't think we can lose those 9 spaces. What I think we can do is maybe lose the all of that. Like if you go, okay, if you're walking in from the north, right? You go along, you go around those 9 spaces, and then there's that crosswalk. What if we just lose the crosswalk and all of that? I guess I don't really know why we need that sidewalk if we can instead go up along the drive and then cut across the service entrance, and go into the school that way. Do we need all this extra? I guess I don't know what this sidewalk, what all of this sidewalk is for. Because if you park there, you're going to walk to the field.
Yeah,
if you put sidewalk along that driveway, the bus driveway from the north, you're encouraging people to walk down that sidewalk, and that's not really what we want.
Well, why wouldn't you walk?
We want everyone to walk down to the middle and in.
But they won't,
that's
John.
the safest route.
But I don't
Whatever
think
they
they
choose
will.
to do is, but you want everybody to go through that central park, just the central path, just like Ken was saying. You won't have to have any of the snow removal for all those paths. You won't have to worry about kids cutting in and out. That you have one sidewalk and in. And
I just don't think they'll do that. And then we're going to
They
have
do it
kids
now.
walking along. Well, they do it now because the school is so close to the street. And that's where the
it's in
main
same
entrance
spot,
is.
though.
But this school is so much further back now that it's a
Yeah,
much
and it's a
longer walk
road,
to
and
the
there's going to
school.
be cars coming in and out and buses coming in and out before and or after school. Kids going to basketball practice, kids going to soccer practice. All my kids walk to them.
I
all
just
the
don't want to
kids
be in
that-
a situation where the kids are walking in a place where there's no sidewalk, because that's the way they're going to walk.
So
I know
if
we
you-
want to encourage them, but
So Mayor, what you're suggesting is to, can we zoom back out just a little bit so that you can see the south driveway? So if I understand what Mayor is saying is to create something similar to the south entrance in terms of the sidewalk, Am I hearing that
Yeah,
correctly?
I mean, if we're doing it on the south, I guess I don't know why we can't do it on the north.
I think initially it was a cost savings measure that we were trying to eliminate this stretch here, and then realize that we've got to add some back in to have an accessible route for these parking spaces down to the field. And then,
But no one's going to cut, Rob, no one's going to cut across the street to walk along the outfield line to then take a right. They're just going to keep going straight.
right.
If I may, though,
So-
it's one of these people, able-bodied people are going to do exactly what you say, but per code and per MAB, we need to provide a stable, accessible route for handicap cars. So there's some redundancy, and it may seem unnecessary, but I think if you have anybody that needs to get down to the field that's not, completely able, so you just.
Because of the parking, or is that just in general?
It's because of the parking. Well, yes, I mean, the fields need to be accessible as well. But so we're going to look very carefully at where we place the handicap parking spaces. So maybe they don't need to be on those outfield spaces. So maybe we can minimize the crossing and some of the sidewalks on that north side. And maybe we group all the handicap spaces for the fields together, and where your hand is, Rob, to minimize the need to have that paved accessible route.
Yeah, so one suggestion is, if we identify parking spaces that are intended to be accessible spaces, let's say over here, and we limit the sidewalk to come from those spaces, or maybe just along this stretch here and over and down, maybe we don't need to have this full stretch here, and maybe we don't need to have this element over here. One thought about this zigzag is, what if students are coming along from the north here, does it make sense to just have it come straight across the back in a straight line and across, and instead of having to follow the road, why not just?
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
that makes much more sense to me.
I think that from the townwide perspective, that if the goal for the town is eventually have sidewalk along Gay Street to connect, to continue along Gay Street, I would say that I would imagine the town will want to maintain the sidewalk along Gay Street, and then whatever else the project wants to do is the project's discretion. But I would think that the sidewalk along the street edge would be required.
Yeah, I think
Right.
along Gay Street would continue. So this would be a straight line that
Okay.
continues across all the way down, but then there would be an offshoot that comes across this way.
Got it. Thank you.
What can we pay for some of these sidewalk? Like, why, it looks like we have a lot of sidewalks that I'm not sure what the purpose is. Like, what is the purpose of the little cross sidewalk below the home plate?
The diagonal.
Yeah,
I think it was connecting this here, and then also basically what Maya was saying is people are going to take a shortest route. So trying to create a path here where we kind of know people are going to.
but I mean, it's not that much further if they went down to the one that bisects the two fields right there. And then we'd avoid that second crosswalk, which we don't need to pay. And then the second sidewalk that I don't understand is the one on the southerly parking lot, but on the north edge of that street down. Yeah. Go to the street there to the, come up the street and then, on the side.
Up the driveway.
Up the driveway.
Oh,
Keep coming up the driveway and then take this left there. And then that sidewalk there that you have the cursor over, what's the purpose of that?
well, this is a parent drop-off loop. So the idea is that you're
Okay,
going to
you
have
drop off all the way back there? I see.
Well, we don't know. I mean, you might have cars queued up here.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I didn't, yeah.
I mean, I think my overall reaction is it'd be helpful. I think this needs to be a little bit more integrated. I mean, I think I don't really know where the kids are coming in. We need to integrate it and minimize. I think there's a way to minimize some of the sidewalk as well as making it kind of integrated for we understand where the kids are coming from. Because I agree, it's kind of like, I don't really understand at all this side. And I understand there's accessibility issues, but let's deal with that, in the context of this as well. I mean, that's my reactions.
Yeah, I think.
Like I can't, where are the kids coming? Where do we want them to go? And I know there's accessibility, but that's not built, we can work with that, I think, and as well.
But my sense is that there's a fair number of kids that are coming from this area here. When you look at the Google Maps, this is a large residential area over here, and that most of the students would be coming from this area.
Well, actually, I think most of the students come from the south and from the east, because there's a big neighborhood there, but there's also a lot of walkers coming from that other neighborhood down in there, like the Pine Street area. So yes. I think there aren't that many kids coming from the north. Right. There's only a few houses along Gay Street until you hit Washington.
Cedar Hill. There's 54 houses in there.
Actually, you're right. Good point. Cedar Hill. No, good point.
We used to have our own bus that would bring the kids in kindergarten 500 feet.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's Cedar Hill and Chickering Road.
I forgot about Cedar Hill.
North.
How can you forget me?
I forgot you, John. I think
that driveway.
Oh, go ahead, Jen.
Oh no, we come from the north. We live at 866. And so I look outside my office every day and see the kids go by. And I would say I see like 2 kids walk by my house every day. Because most people, if they live over on Washington Street, they do cut through Croft Regis and go to the center sidewalk area. I would say most people come from Cedar Hill maybe, and then like 1 or 2 from further down here.
So Jen, if you were to walk, what would be your preferred path?
Yeah, so I'm a little torn on this. I kind of agree with John. Like we walk down to Hanlon all the time and we go where the sidewalks are. Like if there's a sidewalk, we follow it, and my kid knows to go on the sidewalk. So if there's no sidewalk, we never really cut through the driveway. We kind of keep going to the entrance and use that sidewalk to get to the playground. So I don't know. I was actually just messaging my husband about this, and we're like, we don't really need a north sidewalk. Like that's nice to get to the trail, but if there wasn't a sidewalk there, we'd probably just have our kid keep walking and then go to the central sidewalk. So I don't know. I'm a little torn because I could totally see kids just being on their own and just cutting through the grass as well.
So let me ask this then. Does it make sense for us to have this sidewalk come across here to connect to this? Because we need to have this sort of accessible route to get to here, and then this would connect to the trails. So if students, able-bodied students want to continue, they can continue up the trail, and we can make a little trail connector here they could come over. But for accessible route, they would come along here and across here and up this way. So that we've got basically 2 routes. You have one route here where, most kids would be able to, that are walking would go off this way. And then you have another route here, which would be the accessible route that would come up this way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah,
instead of saying
I love that idea.
Able-bodied, if you said kids who are riding their bike, they'd take that path that you just pointed to the north.
Right.
They would love that.
So the idea is that basically that sidewalk leading is really just to go to the Scout House and the
Trail.
Parking.
And
right.
the trail.
And the trail if they want to continue. But in terms of paved,
right.
That's what we're saying. This sidewalk really just leads to the Scout House and that parking.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I really don't want the kids walking along the road, but I think if the trail is there and they can, pick that up. I agree with Tim that I don't think we need that extra sidewalk behind home base on the field. I think that to me does seem like a waste I think I mean, you're
You're
not
talking about this one
saving,
here? or
yeah,
this
you're
one?
not saving that much with that sidewalk. So,
This one here.
I gotta tell you, Mayor, I disagree with you completely. That's the path everybody's gonna take, whether there's a sidewalk or not. If you get rid of the base of the triangle and then went to the parking lot for handicap accessibility on the left field corner and made it a triangle there, that would make more sense. And you get rid of that second crosswalk. So if you put
wait,
right
what do
where
you
his
want to
hand
do?
is,
Yeah.
put your hand on the parking lot, Rob.
This one?
Yep, so if you handicap accessible, straight back toward third base, right there, now you're on the path, the sidewalk. Yep, so if you put one there and you get rid of the base of the triangle that's there with that secondary crosswalk on the street, go to the street, the actual Gay Street. So if you get rid of that crosswalk and that base, now you have the accessible path going where you want it.
Yeah, that's fine. I think you don't need the base and the angle, right?
Right, I'd get
If
rid of the
you're-
base and use
You can
the
get rid of
center
either
cross.
one, but you don't
Yeah.
need both of them.
Don't need both, right?
So I agree. I just don't think you need both.
And since we're eliminating this crosswalk here, it doesn't seem to really make sense to have this here either. So we come in like this, have an angle directly, it leads to this crosswalk here and up there as well.
It's funneling
So
the
this-
cattle.
So the sidewalk along Gay between the base and, that's sort of the right angle, that would disappear as well? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
Base,
keep
yeah.
this. I'm saying
Right.
keep this, eliminate this one.
Oh, okay. All right. And what about the third, what about the third line of that triangle? Would you keep that as well along
This one
Gay?
here? Yeah, I would
Yeah.
keep
That's the
that
Gay Street.
because we
Okay,
want
good.
to.
All right. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
But
So we'll
then-
we'll look at cleaning this up a little bit and then send something out to you guys and just for a final peek and say, is this what everyone agreed on? Does that make sense?
Okay. And and I would also just look at the rest of them too, just to make sure we all need, I mean, to Ken's point, there's a lot of angles here. So the more we can get rid of these sort of jutting angles, the easier it is to remove the snow and
Mhm.
for the kids to, they're not to avoid going off the sidewalk.
Yep. Okay. All right. So
Rob, can you, or Deb, can you explain that hatch area where the cursor is? You have two of them. What are they? Are they raised crosswalk area? If that's the case, we probably should have only one rather than two.
Yeah, I was looking at that, Chin. I was, we had originally thought we'd have that whole section. I mean, we're sort of in the weeds here on each little walk, and there is an overall sort of concept of sort of
Okay,
how we.
I'll leave it to you. Okay, fine.
But I think you're right. We may just want one of those, but for the folks on the call that may not know, our thought was to have the kids be able to, for traffic calming, as well as for pedestrian flow of kids down the fields. We really have this all being what we call a raised table. So you're down 6 inches driving on the road. I mean, you've seen these as raised pedestrian crosswalks on city streets and things, but that's the concept here with this hatching, is that there's no up and down. The kids will just walk right across, and then the cars need to slow down to go up and then back down. So I think, Jeff and Chris and I need to really think about whether we need this whole sidewalk and this whole other pedestrian raised table.
Mhm.
So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. And we are running, and Robbie, we need to keep an eye on the time there.
yeah, we go to 11:30, right?
Yes.
Okay. So moving on to the soccer field. We've designed this to fit within the parameters for 11v11 youth soccer field. What we've done here is got a three-sided fence. So the idea is that this area here, which is sloping, we're trying to hold on to a clump of trees right in this area and as much of this sort of existing slope along this side here as we can. And so the idea is that this would be a great spot for spectators to sit, and then the teams would be on this side of the field, and there's like a three-sided fence around the soccer field here. One question that we were talking about is whether it makes sense to move this fence so that it's right up tight, or let's say a foot off of the sidewalk rather than 3 or 4 feet. However, there is some grade changes here that have impacted the reasoning behind putting it here. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to touch on that.
The grade changes happen at the lower right-hand corner of the field. If you look at plan view, Rob, you want to scroll down there. You can see the contours piling up.
Okay. Yep. Here?
Yeah, so there is the field is a couple feet above, well, you're not on the grading plan, but the field is a couple feet above the sidewalk at that, maybe even 3 feet above the sidewalk over there. It's about a 3-to-1 slope. And
this, wait, let me just see if I can get to the grading plan.
It's a big set of drawings.
There you go. So at the lower right-hand corner, there's about a 3.5-foot grade change. And then at the top, it's probably 1.5 feet grade change. So putting the fence right up against the sidewalk might look a little awkward with the fencing at the ends. So we decided to keep the fence back 10 feet from the field edge.
I wouldn't want the fence up against the sidewalk, because you still need something that if you put a plow down that side for the snow to go.
That's absolutely right. It's not good to have a fence right up against the sidewalk. You want your arms to be able to hang over the edge of the sidewalk so you can get more people on the walk. So
okay. And how much room do we have? How much room do we have between the fence and the stripe?
10 feet. 10 feet.
Go ahead, Tony.
Can you blow that up a little bit, Rob?
So similar, so I guess a few comments I've got. So similar to Little League, can you connect with Drew Butner? I can get Maya, you guys' contact information. He's kind of the field guy. He knows a lot more than I do about this. But a few of his comments, his first comment is that it's possible to go from 110 by 70 to 115 by 70. So basically add 5 yards on both the length and the width. So that was one comment he'll give you. Well, that's, I guess, my first question. And then the second question was just, I know we're not putting in, there's no plans right now to do light poles, but would it be possible, would there be room to actually do that in the future if years down the road we decided that?
So we haven't looked into placing lighting because that's never been a consideration. So we can take a closer look at that and give you a better answer.
Okay.
But I think in terms of making the field wider by 15 feet.
No, yeah, exactly, yep.
Right.
Is it 15 feet or 15 yards?
No, 15 feet, 5 yards on each side, so 15 feet.
It's getting pretty pinched in that lower left-hand corner over there already.
Yeah.
And
is that because, let me ask you, if you go on the other side where the sidewalk is that because if you move the sidewalk, you see the sidewalk kind of cuts across, if you kind of angle that a little bit slightly different, would you be able to make up some feet on that side?
They're really almost too close. Well, they're very close together now, the soccer field and the baseball field. And you can maybe squeeze a couple feet out of it, but the more you do, the less comfortable it gets as you walk in between those two fields. And that's the main entrance to the school. So you really want to make that a pleasant entry, and you don't want to pinch that down by putting fencing too close to either side of that walkway. So I think we're pretty close to the minimum distance between the fields there. If anything, we'd like to try and separate them a little bit more if we got more space. And what I'm trying to tell you is it's not going to be easy to get that extra 15 feet. That's the short.
Even on the width.
Yeah, one thing we had talked about on our own, we did have the same discussion, Tony. And one thing that we were thinking about is not wanting to create this sort of cattle feeling of walking between two fences that are too close together. That we want to give a little bit more space between these two fences, and also thinking about balls either going from the Little League field out or soccer balls going across, and leaving some space in between the two fences to account for potentially balls going over and not going into the other field. And so both of those things kind of led to this size of this field, and then again, by going out this way more with the field, we're now cutting into the slope a bit more, and then really, as Jeff mentioned, we're really cutting it tight to the roadway right here as well.
And Tony, the issue there is not necessarily just the roadway, but you see that heavy line up to the lower left of the cursor that's actually a retaining wall. So the more we do that, we will have to do more retaining wall, and that's a cost. And then we already have significant amount of retaining wall on the project.
I think if I could add in, and Anthony, we've really been trying to make these fields as big as possible. But what you don't see on this drawing is that roadway where that retaining wall is, it's already in a wetland buffer, which is, it's a curved line that isn't really highlighted here. It's not that line, Rob, but it's
okay.
It's the buffer line there. So
yeah,
right here. Pinch point, and the more we pinch that corner or try to increase the corner of that field, unfortunately, we go into the wetland buffer, which we can do, but we're trying to really avoid to make that process even easier. So it's cost, it's wetland regulations, and some other things. But I think 15 feet is going to be tough. Maybe we can eke out 5 more feet.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it to Drew, but I think it's just, we've been burned by, for example, the lodge, the field's not being as big as we hope. And so we basically use them for just 9v9. So we don't want to miss a generation opportunity to have we're really short on 11v11. So I think his view is even a few, it may not be 15, but I think even a few more feet can help. And I'll leave it to actually, but I think you should connect with Drew because he's thought a lot about this. And I wouldn't be so worried. Honestly, I personally aren't so worried about the soccer balls going into the here and there. I mean, honestly, that happens all the time as it is right now in our existing field. So the kids live with it.
So why don't we sort of table this conversation and have that separate meeting with Little League Soccer and lacrosse, and go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay. And we can talk to them about the number of gates as well. We've got, a gate here, a couple gates, one on each side, basically. Is that necessary or not? We can talk about that with them as well. One other item is that, right now we're showing a concrete pad for, potential future porta potties. This is not a big cost, but just wanted to, I guess, run it by you. Is this something that is needed or necessary? Do we leave it out for now? Anybody have any thoughts?
Do we have a porta potty there now?
You're supposed to up at the soccer field.
Yes, there is one.
Okay.
It's actually right on Gay Street.
So that's going to be right next to the path, the main path?
Yeah, and the idea is that, we want it to be on an accessible route. So, if you have people that need to use it and are going from their car to the fields, it makes sense to have it on that route. And then
That might be one of those things that's easy to put in, Mayor, that we can put in later on.
Yeah, I just think that location is unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? I
Me
mean, you're
too.
driving down, you've got this beautiful walkway looking to the main entrance of the school, and right there is a porta potty.
I might put it all the way down the other end,
Can we do it the other end?
next to the
Right
parking
here?
lot. Bottom parking lot, left.
Oh, over here?
Or down further.
The problem is
other
it
side
has
of
to be
that little
near the
parking lot?
accessible, it has to be near the accessible spaces, right?
Right.
Well, so if you go down a little bit more on the bottom part of that parking lot, see the 11 space parking lot?
Mhm.
Go down the bottom, right there on the bottom, right there. Maybe put a bush or two around it for shade.
Yeah, but then
Horizontal.
but if you need accessibility to it, and the parking lot, you'd have to, I don't think the sidewalk is gonna connect to those spaces to get you to the porta potty.
Right. I mean, we talked about eliminating this section here.
Rob, why don't we look at some other alternatives while we're rethinking about the sidewalks? I mean, I agree that that is an unfortunate location. I've never loved it. So when we're redoing the walkways and things, why don't we propose maybe an option or two?
I mean, maybe by the Scout House. It doesn't have to be near the fields, does it?
Well, I remember
That's-
my parenting days. It's really handy if it is near the fields.
I think that they're trying to get to both fields, and maybe this is a time that we might consider one location for the baseball diamond and one location for the soccer field, and so that you sort of put it in a place that's less visible.
Okay.
But I think I'll leave it to the landscape architect to think about both the convenience and as well as the visual impact.
Okay. Let's see. Fencing, playground. Okay, so let's go to.
Yeah, Rob, I think the playground could, great. I want to make sure we have enough time to get some feedback.
Yeah. So we reviewed this briefly with the school building committee, but it makes sense to review it today with the site and outdoor design subcommittee. Some of the comments that we heard was, is it possible to make this lawn play area potentially a little bit bigger? We're kind of limited by, as I had mentioned, we're kind of limited by some of the contours here. But there might be a potential we can make it slightly larger.
What's the dimensions, Rob?
Right now, it's an amoeba shape, but roughly it's 85 by 125.
No, that's pretty big.
So,
Yeah.
I don't think people actually look at it and see the actual size of it, even though you have it written down there.
right.
I think, John, that's a big comment, because I think some of these spaces look really small, but they're actually quite sizable. This whole play area, if you think about it, stretching along the service drive into the woods, these lawn areas and swing, pockets of play kind of all between the building and this upper play area. Go ahead, Rob.
So on here, we've got, an accessible route that connects this southern end to the K1 play area, which has a fence around it as well. In the middle here is this sort of teacher/parent area that can kind of see into both spaces. This is the sort of cushioned play area for grade 2 to 5 play structure. Here we're thinking about having this sort of climbing surface and an integrated slide. This whole area, you can see here, it says plus 194. That's the elevation. Down here is about 188. So there's about a 6-foot height difference between this area and here. We've got steps and then an accessible route, ramp to get from this lower area up to this upper area. So the idea is to offer a variety of different spaces, from a lawn play area to basketball and, maybe a peaceful playground type thing on the hard surface, to structured play areas for the 2 different grade groupings, swings, which we're planning to add as an alternate, and we're identifying this this area here as an alternate as well, since these two were added afterwards. These are some ideas of potential areas for picnic tables. So we've got more of a quiet area here for kids that maybe want to sit and read a book, or maybe eat outdoors, and then another sort of flat lawn area here. The kids can play or toss a ball or something like that. So we've got a wide variety of different activities possible for recess. Also, one thing I did want to notice, we've got some shrubs here. We're sensitive to the fact that there's a focus classroom over here, and wanting to have a little bit of a buffer area to minimize distraction or distractibility from students to the playground. And then this dashed area up here is, potential future expansion. We don't have the funds in the project right now to expand this much bigger at this point in time, but it's an area that might be considered in the future.
Hey, Rob, when we're so we're just about to start the dog and pony show, and when we do, if you on that flat play area, the green in the bottom left of the screen, if you came up with how big that is, I know it's about 6 classroom sizes and it's pretty big, but if you give them the visual, well, right now it's twice as big as the blacktop, all the total blacktop area that's at the Hamlin, or it's 3/4 of a soccer field, and that'll give people something that's tangible.
Sure. Okay, that's a good idea.
So,
I had a question.
go ahead, Charlie.
When we did our visits to the other schools, we saw these very innovative outdoor areas, play areas, and all of this. And I look at what you're proposing here, and they're all very innovative, creative things that we certainly have never seen before, don't have. And I was wondering if you could share with us how many of your ideas that are being presented here have come from successful programs elsewhere, where you put it in and you've got nothing but positive feedback. The kids love this, the kids love that this isn't just some brand new thinking, but it's been proven in other schools that the kids love this, it has allowed for this, the teachers love it. Just share with us maybe that experience on how a lot of these ideas that you're presenting have been shown to be successful and have added to education and fun for the kids, etc.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. That's really where this concept has been driven from, is that, from past experiences on past projects, and from the feedback that we received from students and faculty and the principals as well, where this has all evolved to. A desire for a variety of spaces and activities for students. Each student learns differently. Each student plays differently. You have some introverted students that really just want to sit and talk and have a quiet, chess game with their friend, and other students that are running around and want to get energy out and kick the ball around, and other students that love climbing. And so the idea here is to offer a variety of different experiences. For Deb, I don't know if you have any other comments.
Yeah, I think that's a really wonderful question, Charlie. And I think we've prepared a much larger presentation that we're not going through today. But both Jeff and I have, we've been in this industry for 25 years. And we both have our own children that we've shepherded through many playgrounds and many school classrooms. So I think there is a lot of innovation out there, but I think what we're proposing here are things that will work and give kids a variety of play experiences. And not all kids play in the same way, as you all know. So I think what we're trying to create is enough flexibility, enough variety, but also things that can be maintained, equipment that is, safe, and won't need tons of ongoing maintenance, surfacing that's, again, meets all the safety requirements, and not tons of long-term maintenance. So there's going to be areas for quiet play, areas for socialization, areas for even just, some of these trails that kind of go through the woods. You have a beautiful site here. So while it's tried and true and innovative, I'm hoping, and I think Jeff will echo this, that it really feels unique enough that it feels like this is the Hanlon School playground. That it feels very much of this site, but also, sort of meeting the highest standards that you would want for your project.
Thank you. I'm not sure this is appropriate for today, but recreation and sport is my topic. I would love to have a way of looking at our access to the woods here and actual hiking trails already established, where we could argue that other schools would be welcome to come and spend time at this school as our guests to take advantage of the walks in the woods. I think in Needham, they had a walk in the wood things. But, how might we take advantage of selling this to the other parts of the town? That kids will be able to come over here and share in this experience of taking walks in the woods and learning about nature in the winter time. And the other thing I think you'll think I'm a little nuts on this, but I saw one program where on a school near this, they put bird houses up in the trees and numbered them. And then they had binoculars and they were able to say, well, those are bluebirds in birdhouse number 10. Is there any chance to, and I know Emily wasn't thrilled when I mentioned this about adding to the curriculum, but, audubon things, learning about birds, are there things that could be added that we're so close to the woods? Maybe this wouldn't be perfect, but there's this one place that I saw the kids learn the names of all these birds because they're in house number 22 and this and that. And I just think the more advantage, it isn't exactly athletics or sports, but it's a way to bring education more into this environment where the school is.
Yeah. So Charlie, that's a great point. But that is something that we do through educational programming. I think it's outside the scope of this project, but it's certainly something that the science coordinators are going to be discussing, particularly with respect to what use of the outdoor classroom we're going to be doing. So I love these ideas, but I think for purposes of this call, we should just table them just because it really is part of the educational programming of the district.
Sorry.
No, it's a great point. I just have a couple comments here. So my first comment is the swings. I think we need to talk to the principals about whether that can be an alternate or whether it has to be a requirement. And if it has to be a requirement, where we can kind of assuage the budget accordingly and in other places of the playground. Because I think it was my understanding, but I want to confirm this before I that the swings were a necessity and that they would sort of have to be in the project. The climbing wall and the slide, probably not so much, but the swings may have to be there.
There are two things when I talk with principals and stuff is swings and slides.
Yeah. So presumably there's slides in those wooden structures in the 2 through 5 and the K through 1 play areas. Presumably slides are integrated in there. And if not, then they should be, because that's typically where the slides would be integrated. But I think the swings, we need to think of less as an alternate and more as a requirement.
That was the first comment I had looking at this was, I'm really sad that the swings would be an alternate. It seems like a requirement. There's been so many studies on how it develops your brain and balance and increases attention span. It seems like a must.
Yeah. So that's the first point. The second point is I'm just wondering about that sort of meandering path that gets you from the K-1 playground field to the basketball field. I love the idea, but I just, is that sort of just to sort of mimic the hiking trail, or what's the purpose of that pathway? And what's the material that and the other pathway where the ramps are going to on the 2 to 5 play structure? What is that material?
So that pathway is most likely going to be concrete, I believe. And if not, then as an alternate, bituminous, depending on budget. But the reason it's meandering is because it has to be accessible. And in order to get the path long enough to meet the accessibility grade requirements, it has to meander to get up there.
So it's a grading issue.
It's a grading issue.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And if I could, and I really hope that we can have maybe a larger playground discussion. You know, the equipment is going to be something very specific that the school, who the users are, you know, the teachers and the principal are going to want to weigh in on. But this what you, Maya, were calling the climbing wall and the slide, that's actually, I mean, from the play elements and the cost element, that's actually something that's really jam-packed with activities. And it's also something that's eliminating a retaining wall and eliminating other materials that are going to be very difficult to maintain. So it's a great element, but it's also solving some technical site problems. So,
but it's an alternate, right? When didn't you say it was an alternate?
Highlighted these, and what Rob directed us to do is to show anything that was in excess of what was shown in the SD drawings.
Right.
Am I right with that, Rob?
So the idea. The idea was that, you know, we had an SD set, and anything that was added during this phase, beyond what we owned back then, we really wanted to just flag and identify as an extra. But, you know, so
are they in the budget or are they not in the budget?
These two circled areas right now are outside of the budget.
So if that rock wall isn't there, there's presumably a cost associated with all of the structural elements that rock wall was providing, correct? Is that cost in the budget? Or I guess I'm trying to understand what the budget impact is if we're saying these aren't in the budget, but then I'm also hearing.
Yeah, I think what Deb's trying to imply is that there may be just a cost shift from what's in the base versus in the budget. So it may be a wash, you know, going from what our base is to this. But, you know, for our purposes, we just wanted to flag anything that was you know, not included in the initial, you know, concept.
Yeah. Just to double up on that, Rob, I think there's a lot of things as you go from SD to DD, things get further developed, things get added, things get subtracted. And I think we've just started flipping through the estimate, and we know there's going to be areas where we need to cut. So from my perspective on the site, you know, I'd rather get rid of sidewalks and curbs and things and really try to focus on the elements where the kids are going to get the most value, you know, in the classroom spaces, in the playground, and the athletic fields. So it's going to be a big balancing act, and I think we'll come back with more suggestions on where those things should be removed.
Yeah,
And I have a couple questions. I had my hand raised, but that was silly.
Yeah,
So
no one
the
can see it,
elevation
though.
on the elevation on that middle blue, it says 194, and then that path that I had questions about that with Maya. What are you going down to from 194? It doesn't say.
It's going down to 188.
188, so 6 feet. So you could actually bring it, if you got rid of that whole section, then you could have enough money for the swings and those two circles. And you don't have to do that whole path. I'm just throwing this out there. If we get rid of all the sidewalks that we don't need, I'm sure we could put them in. The other question I have for you, Deb, is it says X rocks, there's a gray something in the middle.
Yeah.
So is that exposed ledge?
This is, yes.
So let me say this, in the exposed lead in my neighborhood, it's a pain, everybody hates it. One of my neighbors actually built a little pond on the bottom, filled it with water, and pumped water up to the top, and has like a waterfall all year long. It's awesome. It's very soothing. But I'm just saying, like, there's things you can do with ledge aside from just look at it, dig it up, and get out of the way.
Yeah, there's
And it looks like
tons.
you're doing something there.
You know, Jeff hasn't had much speaking time here, but he has incorporated. If you zoom in, there's areas where we want to try to incorporate some of the ledge and some of the rocks, again, to keep it feeling like it's part of the site. And I, we went back and forth about really whether we include that rock in the playground. I've worked on playgrounds before where the school has really embraced, a giant rock outcropping. But I heard a lot in the community or sessions about kind of a lot of fear about that. So, I mean, we can go either way.
I'm with you. All right, so let me also say that, and it's something we could do later on. I'm just saying exposed rock is not a bad thing. On that playground that's at the 194, the 3,000 square feet, I definitely don't like that path going all the way up to the paralleling the path, the fire access path, if you will.
Yeah.
This
Is
one
there any way
here.
we can swing it down to the front?
No.
Are you talking about this one here, John?
No, Rob, I think
Well,
it's
I
the,
had to take a picture and blow it up because it's really hard for me to see this little picture because I'm going blind at my old age. But that yellow
Rob, I
path
think-
up top, go ahead, Chin.
the issue is that making sure that the fire access road slash the trail and the isolation and or connection between that and the school. And I'm always a little concerned when when the paths are so close to each other and what's in between.
Yeah, that's my point. I don't like it. So if we could put that direction into the front, that'd be great.
Talking about this here.
Yeah, that path, that brown path that goes around that one tree that goes right
Okay.
next to that yellow path, which I'm assuming
Sure.
is the fire access trail.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
not that the teachers aren't paying attention, but there's a lot of little kids out there and off you go.
Sure.
Is that
Yeah.
fire access trail, that's not
This is the
existing?
new. This is the new.
That's the new one.
proposed
So maybe we can push that. If we have, I don't know, I leave it to you guys, but I agree with
Okay.
John that if they're that close
Yeah.
and and we're not proposing any fencing here.
Holly bushes work great.
Are we proposing fencing? I shouldn't say that. I have no
Well,
idea.
Well, that's a good question. That actually is a question that we have. So I just wanted to follow up on one of John's comments. The idea behind having a path to this lower area is kind of important because if we don't have that, then the accessible route for all the little kids is to go all the way over here through the older kid area and then across. So we do need to have some sort of an accessible route directly to there so kids can.
But it doesn't have to be behind everything. It can be
No,
in
no,
front
no.
of
It can be
everything.
in front. Sure. Yes.
Let's do it that way so it's on the school
Yep.
side and not on the disappearing side.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then, yeah,
And that's-
absolutely.
These are all great comments. So, Rob, you just mentioned it, but it's a good point. So there's an area that we currently show right where Rob is. That's for the younger kids, and that we are proposing a fence around it. I'm not a huge sort of fenced in playgrounds when they're not near roadways, but I know, from a teacher perspective, it can be a lot easier if there's certain age groups that can be sort of more supervised. So again, that's a lot of, hopefully we can get that feedback direction.
That's a question to the educator, and we may have to go to Emily on that one to confirm that.
So, yeah, so right now we're showing a construction fence that would extend across here during construction that would separate, the construction zone. Our wondering is, does it make sense to leave that in place after the project is done, rather than take it down?
I mean, I haven't met a kid yet that can't hop a fence.
Well, our question is we're hearing kind of two different voices. We're hearing some that are saying, hey, let's make it easy for the school to connect to that trail, and then others are saying let's separate the trail from the school, and so we're kind of not really sure which direction you'd like us to go.
I mean, separating there's two different things though. There's access to the trail, which can be almost anywhere, and then there's the playground where you're going to have anywhere between one classroom of 30 to 6 classes, all running around with 5 teachers out there going, yeah, where'd little Jimmy go? Because you know that John's gone, man. He's going to see that tree and say, "Oh, what does the next one look like?" Right on down the road. And some of those kids actually come in that way in the morning from the back part of Cedar Hill that connects up to the back. It's really quite nice. But I mean, I wouldn't advocate for fences. I would advocate for shrubbery that no one likes to go near, thorns, holly bushes. These things are really good deterrents and natural.
Okay. Great. Anything else on the playgrounds? We're running out on time. We've got a couple other things to go over. We are planning to add to have some shrubbery here to kind of provide a little bit of a buffer between this area and the service drive, and a gate here as well. Zoom out a little bit here. We have some outdoor classroom areas, so we're planning to have these as asphalt paved areas, but mostly grass. It would just have like a small landing spot for teachers to sit. But the idea is to leave this as flexible as possible, but have them be sort of integrated and facing into the woods, so that when the teachers are there, with the students, it's more of a integral piece into the woods and kind of separate and away from the building.
So those are the outdoor classrooms?
Yes.
Okay. But they're we're going to have two right next to each other?
Yeah, separated from each other. There's a buffer area, and actually it's a little bit different on our current plan. There's a little bit more room between the two on our current plan that's shown on this rendering. But they would be surrounded by, the idea is to have some trees and shrubbery kind of surrounding each of these two landing spots.
Okay, I think we should talk to the principals about that.
Yes.
Just because I think the idea originally was to have two outdoor classrooms in separate locations. If they're going to be right next to each other, maybe we don't need to. I just don't know how much programming there's going to be around them. So,
Yeah. So this is our most current layout. So the idea is that there would be some separation here, and this is a pretty good distance away. This is probably like about 50 or 60 feet separation between these two.
Yeah, I just don't know if we need to.
I would like to have the principals weigh in on both the playground and the outdoor classrooms.
Well, we definitely need them to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
And even the entrance sequence. I know there's a lot of management of how kids come in and out of the school. So I think that would be another topic, touch base with them, just to make sure they feel like it's going to flow properly.
Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to jump into is the entry.
You want to show the planting plan, Rob? Is that easy to get to?
Yeah.
It reads a little bit better from a design perspective.
Yep.
I'm just looking at time. We've got about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yes. So one of the things that we've changed since the last time is this entry area. Before we had these curb planters, and we ended up taking those out, through the value management process. We had a lot more benches that we ended up, taking out through value management as well. And so through that process, we kind of rethought this entry area. And so here we're showing these sort of landscape mounds. So it's intended to be.
Not big.
Sorry, go ahead. What?
No, I was just going to say they're not just. I don't want to make it feel like they're mounds, but they are gently mounded. But the concept is that we have this wedge that reinforces the main pathway and canopy system that goes into the building, and that they're filtering the kids that are getting dropped off in different locations But the idea is that those two kind of wedges of planting would be, you know, grasses and some ornamental shrubs, but nothing that you could hide behind or even cause some visibility challenges with. But we thought
Would that be like a concrete planting? Like a wall that the flowers are in?
Yeah, it could be. You know, right now I think we just show a small planter curb, again, which is much cheaper than a wall. So we're trying to be sort of make the design a little more efficient, a little bit easier to maintain.
I guess my question is, for security, is that blocking people from driving into the entrance?
Yeah, so that's a great question, John. And I think so. There's these circles right now that are shown in these locations, and perhaps you're right that we need also something taller on the fronts of these planters. So we're working with Dore and Whittier on, you know, whether those are one by one cubes, whether they're longer sections of granite bench, whether they're you know, a combination of other things that would both allow kids to sort of permeate quickly through, but also, you know, stop cars from being able to drive up. So stay tuned on that.
Yeah, so we've got some benches identified along the entry pathway here, on the side here as well. As Deb mentioned, you know, these are currently just indicated as bollards, but you know, our idea is to look at other opportunities to make it not feel like bollards. You know, that then maybe they're like some sort of cubes or other shapes that that provide that sort of barrier from the potential for cars to get through it, but actually feel more playful and integrated with the idea of having some seating or sculptural elements, so it doesn't feel like that's what they're doing. And these, and also, you know, we didn't want to make these as tall concrete barriers here around these areas because of the cost. You know, we dropped that down, but the idea is that the plantings and the way that this is designed, you know, would prevent a car from going all the way through. Plus, we also have this this entrance walkway with posts all along here as well.
I think Chief Silva's going to be interested in what we're doing here for the barrier protection as well. He's raised that a couple times.
In terms of making sure it's secure enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like we need to queue up some other sort of meetings with the folks that are most knowledgeable and impacted. So I think, you know, this whole area with the chief and other, you know, obviously other safety issues around the project, and then, you know, the LAX, the soccer, the Little League for the fields, and then, you know, the educators on the playground entrance and classroom spaces. That seems to make the most sense to me.
So it's 11:30. I just wanted to see if anyone had any other final comments or questions.
Are you going to send this out to Rob, this presentation?
Yeah, I sent it this morning, John.
Oh, okay.
I guess I'm just sort of mindful that we're having all of these discussions, but that you're simultaneously working on a VE project. So I'd be curious to see how that interplays with this.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we were hoping that we could have had some of these conversations sooner. So I think it's going to be a lot of process while we're designing. But I think our next step is to work with Dore and Whittier on sort of unpacking the cost estimate, and then being able to present kind of exactly what we can afford. Does that make sense, Rob?
Yes. So the other items that we didn't quite have time to touch on is that our original concept target for parking was 150. I'm currently showing 159. Should we place 9 spaces in as an alternate? That's one question. The irrigation, is that also an item that should be considered as an alternate? And then snow plowing areas, we were working on identifying the locations. We've kind of highlighted them in the past, but we'll work with the DPW. We had a meeting with them, and we're going to work a little bit closely with them on our planned.
You're fading out, Rob.
Working on a plan where the planned locations are for snowplow with them. So we'll put together a layout and work with them on that.
Rob, with respect to the irrigation system, was that in the schematic design budget?
Yes.
I think we need to leave that in there. I don't think we can have it as an alternate. I mean, we can't, if we don't irrigate the fields, we're not going to have fields.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone disagrees with that, but
No, yeah, we need the irrigation.
yeah.
True words. Where are you proposing for snow?
Go ahead, Jen.
I think it was John.
I was just
No,
going to
where are you
comment on the
proposing for snow?
parking.
Yeah, I'm Jen Flanders. You have the floor, and then John.
I was just going to comment on parking. You guys likely know this, but once you get over 150 parking spots, you need to add another accessible spot. So just something to think about with increasing the parking.
I think we're only talking about decreasing it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I think
So,
we're at
never mind.
59 now, right? And and we originally had 150. So I think those 9 will be alternates. So if we do include those 9, then to Jen's point, I think we'd need one more spot. We'd need.
I guess what I'm getting at is in SD and now we've had about 159 spaces.
Oh, we've always had 159.
Yes, but early on in the design, at the very early conceptual level, the target was 150. Through conversations, and with the school building committee and so forth, the desire was, well, can we squeeze in some more parking? And so we've done that. But now that we are in this sort of budgetary concern, the question is, should we go back, identify, these 9 spaces that we've been showing? Should we identify it as alternates?
Sounds good.
I mean, we can talk more about this, Rob, but I feel like if you're going to really use it as a cost savings, you need to eliminate more than 9. Like 9 is on a project of this scale, like they would be scattered everywhere because you wouldn't want to get rid of a whole bay near the field. So I'm hopeful. I mean, what I'm hearing on all these calls is that we need more parking. So I would hate to be the one that got rid of the 9 spaces and then people can't find parking for the athletic fields. And we'll look at snow plowing with the DPW because I think Jeff has run a plow before and put the snow where they want to, depending on who's driving the truck. But
and how the snow removal is happening, what equipment they're using. There's plows or front end loaders or whatnot. But I think we certainly can identify areas where snow can be stored and pushed, and whether that's taking up some parking spaces or finding some open lawn area to store the snow.
Yeah, I
either will
think
work.
before we go there, I just wanted to close out the parking discussion. So if we can get just some direction from.
You mean the number of spaces?
Yes.
I think we should stick with 150 and have 9 as alternates. Unless anyone disagrees.
Oh, what is the saving by saving 9?
That's what we'll figure out.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? $30,000?
We're going to have to find savings somewhere, so.
I'm with you. can see a lot of that sidewalk disappear.
30,000 will give you your swing set.
I mean, along with reducing pavement, it also would reduce the amount of stormwater needs as well. Anytime you have pervious pavement, it directly correlates with the amount of stormwater. So anyway, okay, so that's good on that. And then on the snowplow, places that we've been kind of thinking about is, potentially back here is one, for example, and then potentially somewhere in this area where things can get pushed. Certainly don't want to push it, or and can't really push it along this side here where the wetlands are. Can't push it here or anywhere along here. But this area seems to make sense. So we'll get together with Jeff and do a layout on exactly where.
Hey, Rob, when you meet DPW on the snow plowing, please include me because
absolutely
they are responsible really for the lots. We are responsible for all the sidewalks, and they tend to bury our sidewalks. So, I want to be involved when we talk about this.
Absolutely.
And they should also be involved with the location, the irrigation box. And that should be down by the fields, not by the schools, because they maintain the fields as well. And they should have direct access.
Okay, that was a question that we had. Irrigation box by the fields. Okay.
Yeah, those are great comments, Ken.
Okay. I think that covers most of it. I did want to show, we did have it outlined, and if we'll have time still. On these plans, you'll see darker images of shrubbery and lighter ones. So all of the white or lighter ones are alternates, and all of the darker ones are base bid. So in this set that you received, there's a planting schedule. So like down here, for example, it says base bid, and then identifies all the plants. And over here, base bid versus alternate. So that kind of gives you a sense of which plants and trees are considered in the base bid and which ones are considered in the alternate.
Okay, great.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you all for your feedback.
Yes,
Thank you for all your hard work. We know this is a lot of work and it shows, and we really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So thank you.
You're very
Now we've
welcome.
got more to do.
Yeah. So
We're not home.
All right, so this group is going to reconvene, I think, on August 4. I can't remember, for the value engineering meeting for the site and outdoor design. I'm actually going to add a couple people to this subcommittee, hopefully, if I can. But specifically, I'd like to add some principals and maybe Emily, so that we have some faculty and administration perspective on this stuff. But we'll see if we can get that done between now and then. And I think that's it.
And we'll put together a quick markup of the plans on this to show the sidewalks and send it out to this group just so that we can close the loop on that.
Great. And if we can get the presentation for the August 4th meeting ahead of time, I think John Cummings, I know, can't make it, and I think one other person can't either. So if we could get it ahead of time, we could get their feedback. I know it's tough to get feedback when you don't have the context of the presentation itself, but at least we could get initial thoughts and maybe answer some of their questions during the meeting. I think that would be helpful. So.
Sounds good.
All right. Oh, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Ken Aries,
Yes.
John Cummings,
Yes.
great. Charlie,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Tony had to hop off, and I am a yes as well. So meeting is adjourned.
Great. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
you.
Enjoy the beautiful